Is Airbnb arbitrage actually passive income? In this video, I'm going to talk about if this business is actually as passive as everyone says it is. The reality of running an Airbnb arbitrage business is that it's not that passive in the beginning. After you already secure the Airbnb, set up your automations and systems, then yes, the Airbnb business does become a lot more passive. But in the beginning of running an Airbnb business, before you have your property, you have to do cold calling, you have to do cold emails, you have to tour properties, do inspections, you have to underwrite deals, you have to make sure that the deal that you're going into is actually going to be profitable. You have to do market research to make sure that the city is a good city to do Airbnb in. It doesn't have too many laws or regulations. You need to figure out what permits you need to get. All these things are aspects of the business that people don't really talk about when they say Airbnb arbitrage is passive income. But that's what I'm going to talk about here in this video today. And to give some perspective, I have about 13 Airbnbs and I usually spend about 6 hours a week managing it from my phone. This is because I have a team in place in my local area to do all the work for me. I have my cleaning team, my handyman, and my virtual assistants that do all the messaging for me. What I usually do is just oversee these operations, coordinate between the teams, and I also manage the pricing of my Airbnbs because I don't trust in these pricing automation softwares, but we'll talk about that in another video. In the beginning of starting the Airbnb business, you're going to spend most of your time doing the market research, which is literally just finding property on Zillow, making sure that it's going to make money by using websites like airdna.co, putting the address in from Zillow to airdna.co, figuring out if it's worth paying the rent, utilities, and cleaning costs, and you're still going to profit at least $2,000 to $3,000 a month. The bulk of your time is going to be doing that. The things that are fast to do, but nobody wants to do, is actually calling the landlords and emailing them and pitching them your business model. I'd say in the beginning, if you can dedicate at least 2 to 3 hours a day to cold calling and doing market research, then you're going to be in a good spot to have a property secured by the end of the month. That is if you are doing multiple emails and cold calls every single day within those 2 to 3 hours. When I started this, I had no idea what to say to these landlords. So it took me a while to figure that out, what they want to hear, what are the objections that they have, how do I overcome those objections, and this is why it took me that long. From the moment that I had the money to start Airbnb, it took me 6 weeks of calling landlords, emailing them, touring properties to finally secure a deal. And it got to a point where I literally drove 3 hours with my business partner, Alex, out of state so that we could tour a house in New Haven, Connecticut. And we didn't even end up going through with that deal. But that's how excited I was about this business model working. It's because I ran the numbers and I knew exactly how much I could make with that property. So you do have to sacrifice your time to go out and tour the properties, even if that deal isn't secured yet. Build rapport with the landlord on the tour after you got off the phone with them and already pitched the business. I would not recommend waiting until you get to the house to pitch them the business, because genuinely they might just be mad that you wasted their time, because some landlords, no matter what you say, are not going to be okay with it. Sometimes, especially when you're dealing with the real estate agent or the property manager, they already have a relationship with the landlord and they already know that this is something that they would not want to do. And I've dealt with this in the past where they'll literally just say no. That's part of the game. You're going to get a bunch of no's, you'll get a lot of maybes, and you'll get barely any yeses. But this is how the game works. You turn the maybes into yeses. So 6 weeks after emailing, calling, touring properties, doing market research, that's when I finally got my first yes to move into an Airbnb property. It was a 2-bed, 1-bath. And in my first month, I made about $2,000 profit because my rent was about $2,400. We were cleaning the properties at the time, and I couldn't believe that I just made this money online without having to do anything besides rent out a property that isn't even my own house. So let's talk about once you actually get a yes from a landlord and you can get the property set up. The first thing that you need to do is figure out your interior design plan. When you're doing that inspection and that tour, you want to take measurements of every single room. You want to make sure that you have these measurements so that when you're buying the furniture, you don't buy furniture that's too big or too small for the rooms. To make sure that I'm not spending too much and I get my return on investment in 6 months. Now, in terms of actually assembling furniture and setting up the property, putting up all the artwork, mounting the TVs, all these things are going to require a lot of work, obviously. Ideally, you want to have people there helping you set this up. Setting this up by yourself is going to take a while. It's probably going to take at least 5 days for you to set it up by yourself. If you get some friends or family to help you, can literally get it done in like a day or two. If you don't have any friends or family available that are going to help you set up this Airbnb, then I highly recommend you outsource and hire someone to help you and pay them by the hour. You can use apps like TaskRabbit to hire handymen in your local area that will literally help you assemble furniture, mount TV, literally just do whatever you need them to do and get this process done faster. You don't want to do this by yourself to save money because it will take you a long time to set up. And every single day that you waste in your property is not on Airbnb. That's money that you're losing out on. So you definitely do not want to take long with the setup process. You have the Airbnb property set up, and you set up your pricing according to AirDNA and what the local area says. What I usually recommend students to do for pricing is always look up the exact address of their Airbnb on airbnb.com, and Airbnb will pull up all of the other Airbnbs next to yours. You'll be able to see what they're pricing their Airbnb at so that you can competitively price yours. Make sure that it's always a little bit below theirs, especially if you have the same metrics. Say for a 2-bed, 1-bath, they're charging $250 a night. You should charge $230, $240 a night, as long as it makes sense for your rent. But this is something that you should have underwritten before you even moved into the property anyway. Now, in the beginning, like I said, I cleaned the property with my business partner so that we can save up as much money as possible to pour into the next Airbnb. If you don't have the time to do this, of course, you have to hire a cleaner. There's a website called Turno to hire cleaners. It's spelled Turno. And you type in the address of your Airbnb on the app, and then you'll have a bunch of cleaners bid for how much they want to clean your property for. And you literally just choose the best one based on their reviews. And these cleaners are specialized in short-term rental cleanings. They're not just regular house cleaners that come like once a month. They actually do Airbnb cleanings. You can connect these cleaners to your calendar so they know exactly when to go, so that you don't always have to be texting them and telling them, oh, there's a cleaning today, and like everything's last minute and unorganized. They'll know exactly when to go. They already have the experience, and they get paid directly through the app. And in terms of finding your local handyman, you can literally just go on the app that I said, TaskRabbit, find the handyman that maybe helped you assemble the furniture or can help you with the task, and tell him, hey, look, I'm going to have this Airbnb in the area. I want to make sure that I have you as a person that I can call that can come here and fix any issues if need be. Come to an agreement on how much we can pay you per hour every time I call you to come here. And boom, now you have someone there on call if you're not available to go fix an issue. So in the beginning, yeah, you're spending 2 to 3 hours a day consistently with no results, no money coming in. But that's how literally every single business is anyway. So if that's too much work for you, then you shouldn't start business at all. After you get the Airbnb property secured, you're spending a lot more time setting up the property, unless you completely outsource it to the handyman, which is completely understandable if you have a full-time job and genuinely don't have too much time to do this, besides on the weekends. If you have friends and family that can help you get it done faster, that's great too. After the property is set up, all you got to do is hire your cleaner, hire your handyman, and make sure that you're on top of the messaging. One thing that I forgot to mention is the messages to the guests. On the Airbnb app itself, you can set up automatic messages to send before a guest checks in, while they're at the property, and after they check in, to make sure that you're sending them the checkout instructions, the welcome message, reservation confirmed message. All these messages that you don't have to manually type out every single time are going to save you a lot of time. Since you only have 1 or 2 properties, you don't need a virtual assistant to do the messaging. You could just handle this by yourself, maybe add a business partner or a friend onto the Airbnb account so they can help you do the messaging. So I'd say once it's all said and done, it's about like 85% passive, and it's definitely not 100% passive. No business in this whole entire world is 100% passive. You always have to look over it. You always have to manage it. You have to always make sure that things are functioning properly. If you watch this video and you're like, damn, I do not want to do all this and figure this out all by myself, I need some help with this. This is exactly why I do a one-on-one mentorship. I have a link down below that will let you apply for my one-on-one mentorship, where I'll personally hold your hand throughout this whole entire process to make sure that you don't mess it up or waste any money going into the wrong property or something like that. And the link down below is where you can apply for my mentorship, and we can get on a call and see if this would be a good fit for us to work together and what I could actually help you do in this Airbnb business. If you're not interested in that, just subscribe to the channel and I'll keep uploading Airbnb videos for you to learn as much as you can about this business before getting into it.